What's up, everyone? Welcome. Oh, hold on. Hey. Sorry. No. Sorry. That may happen a few times. I have an untested puppy in my house. Very first night, literally 2 hours new in my household. So this dog may be going crazy. Sorry. Where are we? Oh yeah. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the third week of the Bordeaux month. We are finally switching over to reds. So we tried the Bordeaux white. We opened with a Bordeaux white. We had Sauterne, the dessert wine, last week, and we're gonna wrap up the month next 2 weeks. So we're gonna taste the red wines from Bordeaux, which is what the region is known for. Before we get into the wine, just a few announcements. Wine Prom, Joe just RSVP, but for the wine prom is happening the last Saturday of April. It's like 28th, 29th, exact date. Okay, dog. Hey, calm down. It's the 27th. Sorry, 27th of April. So that's that. It's not a commitment thing, but I just need to know how many people are coming. Just kind of get an idea of crowd size, guest size, so I can kind of plan. So if you could just email me and let me know that you're coming, I would appreciate it. Anybody who's in the wine club, as well as your friends, family, neighbors, whoever you want to invite, they're all invited. But yeah, just let me know so I can get approximate head count. The invoices went out on the 15th. There's still quite a few outstanding invoices. I'm going to be wrapping that up within the next day or two. So if you are planning on joining, go ahead and take care of that invoice. If you're not planning on joining, just let me know so I can get an accurate head count. But I'm going to be wrapping that up. So if you still have outstanding invoice, you will probably be hearing from me. But just go ahead and get that done so I can get that going. Last but not least, 6 Foot Wine Club is committed to donating 1% of its gross revenue to an organization whose mission statement aligns with its values. And this month, we are donating to the Hunger Project. If you are curious about what they do, or if you want to donate alongside 6 Foot Wine Club, the donation link is right there in the chat box. Go check it out. Pretty cool organization. But yeah. Any questions about any of the logistics or anything I just went over before we get into the wine? And for those of you in the Boge box, you should know this by now. But I was actually shocked when one of them emailed me and told me that they haven't been getting the email that's been going out on Fridays. But if you are in Boge box, if you purchase Boge box, you should be getting a additional email, second email from me each Friday with the link for each Boge bottle. So if you're not getting that, then something is happening. So let me know, and then we can try to troubleshoot that and figure that out. But you should be getting it every Friday. So if you're not, let me know. But otherwise, expect another Boge box email this Friday coming to your inbox. All right. So today we're tasting this guy. 2021 Chateau Lepoy. It doesn't say Chateau Lepoy, but that's the name of the producer. It just says Famille Amoureux. That's the name of the family that owns Chateau Lepoy. Esteemed, very recognized, very highly esteemed Bordeaux producer. Duc de Nauves, Bordeaux Rouge is what we're tasting today. Looks like this. Looks very French, this label, if you ask me. All right, let's start with a map. Where French map? There you go. Here's the French map. Should look pretty familiar. We're right here in Bordeaux, right? Sorry. Yep. So Bordeaux. Some review is right by the Atlantic coast. It's named after the namesake city. That's the inside of it. There's these two rivers that flow into this region, this estuary essentially, the Garonne and then Dordogne River. that flows out into the Atlantic and this estuary. This huge kind of maritime influence is what makes viticulture possible or appealing in this region. Otherwise, it's quite hot and just kind of a dry place. But because of that maritime influence, the humidity comes in here, and that's what helps grow good grapes here. If you look at more closely, this is what it looks like. This should all be a review for most of you, unless you're joining us for the first time this month today. But this is what it looks like. If you look more closely, it's roughly divided into kind of, you can think of Bordeaux as like 3 different regions. So there's a left bank, which is this side to the left of the Garonne River, right? And then there's a right bank, which is on this side through the Dordogne. And then in between these 2 rivers is this turquoise region called Entre-deux-Mers, which is name is right here, between the 2 seas. And it's not just coincidentally that these rivers happen to divide this kind of regions neatly like this, but actually the type of wines that are made here is different because of that. Again, if you hang out with the Bordeaux collectors or Bordeaux drinkers, you will hear this all the time. Is this a left bank Bordeaux? Is this a right bank Bordeaux? Sometimes if you go to a big wine stores, they may even divide out Bordeaux section further into left bank and right bank. And this is kind of what they're talking about, left bank and right bank. So like I mentioned, this is mostly a red wine country. So there are Bordeaux varieties. You may hear that term a lot. This is even in California, like, you know, the Meritage blend, you might have heard of that. Meritage blend is essentially a Bordeaux variety blend, which is Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot. It's all right here in the middle. Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cabernet Franc, Petit Verdot, Carmenere, and Malbec. Those are the red Bordeaux varieties. And then there's a white Bordeaux varieties, which are down here, Sauvignon Blanc, Semillon, and Muscadel. Left bank, so all this Medoc, Grave, this area. Some of the most expensive wines in the world come from right here, these sub-regions of Medoc, like Saint-Estèphe, Pauillac, Saint-Julien. All these are mostly Cabernet dominant blend. So out of the blend, it's always going to be Cabernet or Merlot dominant. But depending on where you're from, if it's a left bank, it's always going to be Cabernet Sauvignon dominant. If it's right bank, it's going to be Merlot dominant. And then in the middle here, Entre-deux-Mers is where the white wine comes from. So Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon blend with a touch of Muscadel thrown in there. And then like what we tasted last week, arguably some of the world's greatest white wine or white dessert wine. Botrytis affected dessert wine comes from this area, Sauternes, which is what we had a bottle of last week. We also talked about 1855 classification last week, right? The classification that was ordered by Napoleon to the basically Chamber of Commerce, so to speak, or the merchants of the Bordeaux, saying ahead of the 1855 World Expo in Paris, they essentially wanted all the best. At the time, Bordeaux was essentially some of the best wines that are coming out of, or most well-known wines coming out of France at the time. So Napoleon just wanted to showcase the best. So he ordered them to come up with a list of the best wineries, essentially the chateaus. And at that time, they divided the most expensive, not necessarily quality, but most expensive wines into 5 different categories. So first growth all the way down to 5th growth, first growth, second growth, third growth, right? All of that. So some of the these estates, some of these wineries got placed into first growth or second growth. And ever since 1855, except for one exception that took place that we talked about, right? That list has been exactly the same. So we're talking about an area that is basically steeped in tradition and rigidity. And even when you come here to visit, it is a very different kind of feel. I mean, this is very much of like, you see that regal chateaus, what you think of that, like really gaudy, stuffy, almost stuffy, like a French wine tradition and culture. This is where you're going to see a lot of that. And things like that. 1855 classification is just an evidence of that kind of culture that exists here. Yeah, and then we talked about Sauterne. Anyways, so that's kind of a review of what we went over last 2 weeks. But this week, we're moving away from the left bank, and then we're going to the right bank. And today, we're in this little part called Côte de Franc. This is where the winery is located. So this little tiny region right here, just outside of Saint-Emilion. Saint-Emilion is probably the biggest town on the right bank. It is also the most significant in terms of wine quantity as well as the quality of wines that are being produced in right bank. I mean, there are other places like Pomerol, Fronsac that is very, very well known, but Saint-Emilion is also a very, very sought after region. It has its own kind of classification system. It has own Grand Cru vineyard sites and all of that. There's criticism as well as praise for that system that they have. But just to give you a sense, next week we actually have a Saint-Emilion Grand Cru wine that we're going to taste next week. But today we are in Côte de Franc, which is just outside of Saint-Emilion, just right on the northeastern part of this region. Where this winery is located within Côte de Franc, it is also the second highest point in all of Bordeaux. So it's on this kind of a rocky plateau. There's a rocky plateau that kind of runs through this middle of like cuts right through Saint-Emilion. It's the same rocky plateau made of red clay, silex. Silex is that kind of chalky limestone, more porous limestone that you see in places like Sancerre. And then limestone. So it's the same kind of rocky plateau that runs through the Pomerol and Saint-Emilion, but it just goes out further to the east and north, and a higher elevation is what we're talking about. And like what we talked about, as you know, looking at the review, you should already know because we're on the right bank. What we are drinking today is a Merlot dominant blend out of it could be any of these things, but particularly Merlot. So in fact, the exact makeup of this is 70% Merlot, 20% Cabernet Franc, and 10% Cabernet Sauvignon is the blend of this bottle that we're tasting today. So who makes this wine? These guys. So this is dad and son, 14th and 15th generation winemakers in the family. This is Jean-Pierre Amoureau. By the way, if you look at the cork, they have their family name written on there as well. It's on the label as well. Jean-Pierre Amoureau. And then this is Pascal Amoureau. And then they run a chateau called Chateau Le Puy. This is obviously the kind of the landmark stone that they have on their property that marks their most prized vineyard. Here's Pascal with they have a whole herd of horses on their farm. But here, him showing, as you can see, the limestone, the silex, that chalky soil. Look at how white it is. I mean, just all because of that kind of a chalky content within the soil. It's kind of like what makes this area special and different, because a lot of the areas in this in Bordeaux is clay. This used to be a marshland. It just used to be just like a swampland until the Dutch engineers arrived in the 17th century and kind of drained the area and then turned it into the wine region that it is now. So left bank, they're all found these gravels. There's a whole region called Grave underneath the Medoc. So left bank is really known for their gravelly soil. That's where Cabernet Sauvignon does really well. On the right bank is more clay based, but also in the right bank is where you find these things like silex and limestone running through. And these are some of the most sought after vineyards because of that limestone and silex content. So Chateau, the Duc de Nauves, even though it doesn't have the name Chateau Le Puy on the label, because this is a second label that they make. They make their own wine under that label, Chateau Le Puy, and it's a very, very well-known wine, very sought after. I think I have a picture of that wine alone. But Chateau Le Puy is certified biodynamic kind of an OG natural wine producer in Bordeaux, which is a rarity. You don't find that quite a bit. Like you don't find natural wine producer nor organic farming, let alone biodynamic farming here in Bordeaux. It's just not that kind of place. This is where chemical conventional farming is the norm. But the Amora family has been continuously operating and farming and making wine in this region since 1610. So they've been making wine for some time. They know a thing or two about making wine. Like I mentioned, they're currently on their 14th and 15th generation of the families making wine. And in that, during the whole 600 years of operation, they have never once used chemical on their field. So we're talking about complete chemical-free vineyards. Again, really, really rare thing in this region. And not only is it just the farming itself, their chemical-free approach to farming that sets them apart, but they also have made this region over time has really changed in style. So when a lot of people talk about Bordeaux, especially now, and even for me, when I say like, you know, I hate Bordeaux, I don't really like the style of Bordeaux. What I'm talking about is the modern style of Bordeaux. The modern style of Bordeaux is kind of like similar thing to what happened in California. Is that, you know, really ripe, high alcohol, high tannin, extracted, a lot of new oak. All that style became really fashionable. And even now, the Medoc properties and the chateaus over there, some of them will use up to 100% new oak on their wines. So this is a very, very heavy-handed kind of makeup on their wine. It's that kind of a region. And, you know, same thing that, you know, same reason that I talk shit about, you know, modern California wines is the same thing that has happened in Bordeaux. And that's why I don't like it. That's why I can't drink much of it at all. But these guys, the Chateau Le Puy, you know, places like Bordeaux where new oak and then that kind of muscular, big, powerful style has become super fashionable. And even the appellation system has recognized that as a Bordeaux style. They have never even once made a slight concession towards that style. They have stuck with their traditional making, and they have always gone the way they always have, made the way that their ancestors have. So true to this conviction, they didn't even submit this wine. So that Côte de Franc, or even they could even call it Saint-Emilion if they wanted to, but they decided not to. And if you look at the bottle, right in the front label on the bottom, it says Vin de France. That means this wine could be sourced anywhere within France. It is the lowest of the lowest of the appellation classification system. And they intentionally decided to declassify this wine because they didn't want to submit it. They didn't even submit this to the appellation tasting panel because they believe they don't agree with the direction that they're going. And they believe that this is a wine that is completely different from the rest, that kind of sets it apart. So they said, we're just going to run with our name. We're going to make it. We know our wine is good. We're going to make it that we want to make it without relying on the appellation system. So I think that's pretty cool, that kind of common culture attitude that they have. To take it even a step further, they actually believe that their family plot produces singularly unique wines. And stylistically, they also just make wines that are different from the rest of Bordeaux. So they actually currently are in the process of petitioning to create a new appellation in Bordeaux called Le Puy appellation. If they are successful in getting this passed through the French authorities, then they will become the first and only single vineyard appellation in all of Bordeaux. So single vineyard Bordeaux appellations exist in Burgundy everywhere, right? Like people who have like walled up vineyards is the vineyard that has been, you know, is owned by one single owner. Pretty rare thing in Burgundy, that it is so different from the rest of it that they have their own appellation for that. That system doesn't exist in Bordeaux. So if they were to succeed, they will become the first and only single vineyard appellation within Bordeaux. And if they succeed, it will probably dramatically change the way the trade structure or the appellation system is designed in Bordeaux as well, if they succeed. So remains to be seen. But just know that we're talking about the kind of people who are essentially saying "fuck you" to the appellation system. So what is this wine? This is actually a purchased fruit, so it's not their estate fruit. They didn't grow this. They purchased this fruit from their neighboring family's plot, which contains just slightly less limestone and a little more clay. But the wine is made in their family, the Chateau winery. So it's the same people who are making it in the same place. They just bought the grapes from their neighbor. 70% Merlot, 20% Cabernet Franc, 10% Cabernet Sauvignon, biodynamically grown grapes. They're certified biodynamic property. And then all the tenets of natural winemaking that we talk about here applies here. Spontaneous fermentation. They age this in they ferment and age this in a small cement vats, which is a very different move than the rest of the producers here, which all prefer barrels and new oak. Anything off of just kind of a regional appellation Bordeaux, almost everybody will use some level of new oak on their wines. It's just that popular in this region. But as you can see, these guys do not believe that. So they don't use any oak. They use cement vats, no wood, and then age it for 12 months before bottling it, unfiltered, unfined, with just a touch of minimal sulfites, is what we have here. Any questions before we get into?
Ooh, and I missed the grape varietals. Can you tell them again?
Yeah, so it's Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot. So those two are the most important two. So his left bank is Cabernet Sauvignon dominant, right bank is Merlot dominant, and then all the other supporting actors or actresses are Cabernet Franc, Petit Verdot.
Well, you're not talking about this wine. You're talking about just in general.
Oh, just in general. Oh, I thought you were talking about this one. Okay, sorry. Yeah. This is 70% Merlot.
Yeah.
20% Cab Franc, 10% Cabernet Sauvignon.
Okay, thank you.
Is what we got here. Yeah. Any other questions before we?
I feel like we need a mnemonic for this, like, left bank,
yeah,
right thing, because I don't know. It seems to me like if that is if the question that everybody asks is like, is this right bank or left bank, and the clue is that it tells you that it's Merlot forward or Cab Sauvignon forward. So
yeah,
okay,
I'm pretty sure there's a mnemonic out there.
And what, say it?
I don't. I'm pretty sure there is one, but I don't remember.
Yeah, maybe the Google will answer this for me.
Yeah, just Google it. But I mean, the rest of them really is just supporting actors. Like I said, the most important thing is Cabernet Sauvignon. That's two that you should really remember. What? Right bank Merlot, left bank Cabernet. All right. Let's taste the wine. Who wants to take the appearance? Come on. Somebody take the appearance.
I'll take it, Ng.
All right, Dan. Thank you. Appreciate you. Let's do the appearance.
So it's clear.
This wine is clear. You can tell it's not fine, but it's definitely clear. It's not like opaque, for sure. Intensity?
I'd say medium.
Yeah, I agree. It's this is not like super deep like some of the Bordeaux, most Bordeaux reds it would be deep, but this one is not. This one I'll call it about medium as well. Like I can definitely see the riding through the deepest core. It's hard for me to kind of like read completely through, so I'll call it about medium as well. Color?
Maybe in the ruby range. Like it's
totally.
Pretty purpley, but not all the way purple.
Yeah, I'll call this ruby as well. Clear, medium, ruby. Anything else?
No, I didn't have, yeah, nothing else. I didn't get to the
Yep.
bottom of my bottle yet. I don't know if there's any, what
Yeah.
it's like sediment wise or anything, but.
Yeah.
nothing.
Agreed. Excellent. You get to pick the next person for the news.
I'll pick Joe.
All right, Joe. Mr. Knoble.
I'm on mute.
All right.
I knew Dan would pick me. So I call it clean.
It's clean, for sure.
he-
Also, I just want to say this as well. Like, this is, we've had this conversation before, this kind of like OG natural wine before natural wine became even a thing, before they even knew what natural wine was. Like, we're talking about that kind of producer here. So like these guys have been making the wine the natural wine way since 1600s. So they know a thing or two about what they're doing, but also just the fact that like how classic and clean and pristine this wine is, like this is wild. But yes, definitely clean, definitely.
Just an aside, how similar do you think this tastes versus their vintages like 50 to 100 or more years ago?
Oh, I mean, the wine here is probably way riper than it was back then. Just way more fruit, way more extraction for sure, 100%. I'm willing to bet it was lower in alcohol, less color intensity, less less ripe fruit quality and all of that. That would be my guess for sure. All right. The wine is clean, wine is sound. Intensity.
I go actually kind of medium minus.
Medium minus, yeah?
Yeah, I'm not getting much off this.
I don't know, dude. Mine's jumping out of glass. It's like
Right?
mine's here. Like I'm smelling it like way off.
Yeah,
gotta get it.
I'm getting it far away too.
Yeah.
Maybe I got the bid.
You got the lemon. Yeah, dude,
no, yeah, nothing's really jumping out to me.
So I call this, is your wine cold?
I put in no, it's I put it in the fridge for like 20
Yeah,
minutes.
Yeah, no, I mean,
It's cool. I call it cool.
okay. Medium plus intense. Joe calls it medium minus. I call it medium plus. Almost borderline pronounced for me, but medium plus. Intense aromas of, what do you got?
It's gonna be tough because we're not getting much, but at least on the red fruit. I would go with some of the black currant,
Yeah.
the black
Okay.
cherry.
Okay. So you're skipping all through this floral, citrus, and all of that. None of this. Really.
Yeah, I'm not getting it. Like,
Yeah. Agreed.
stuff.
Yeah, none of this. This is really where it starts to kick in. All right. So you're saying like black currant. What else?
Black cherry, black currant.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe some plum.
Yeah. I get quite a bit of plum here for sure. Plummy.
I almost volunteered for this too because I was curious. I'm definitely getting plum
Yeah.
action. That was the first thing that I thought of with the nose.
Yep.
But
So
nothing.
that's plum is so we talk about this in the wine world. So this is almost a coded language where I've said like this code, this grid is like a coded language that we use to each other to show what's in it. So for example, like black currant is a very kind of telltale sign of Cabernet Sauvignon. Black plum, dark plum is like very much Merlot. So as we say to each other, like this one is very plummy. It's usually if we know that this is Bordeaux or like some sort of Bordeaux variety blend, we're basically signaling to each other that like I'm willing to bet this is a right bank, not a left bank. I'm getting more Merlot than I'm getting Cabernet and all these things. So, but we know that this is Merlot dominant. This is 70% Merlot. So there's a reason why you guys are definitely picking up more plum. And then that black currant called, that's also Cabernet Sauvignon is also in here, which is good. And to me, there's a bit of like a red character here too. It's not just a black. I mean, I could call that like red plum maybe even, but like that cherry is kind of thing. There's an unusually large percentage of Cabernet Franc that's thrown in here, which gives off more red fruit than black fruit. So you're picking up some of that as well. But all of you guys are picking these things out without me prompting you that these are what you should smell. So sharp nose, gentlemen, sharp nose. All right. The character of the fruit.
I'm not getting any cooked fruit, really.
Neither.
Nothing herbaceous or herbal.
Yeah, there's definitely some green notes here, right? Some like you're saying you do or you don't?
I do not know.
You do not. Okay. Like for me, there's definitely some like a herbaceous kind of green savory thing here. I wouldn't go as far as like green bell pepper, but this basically the whole piercing character, the kind of freshly cut grass, a little bit of green bell pepper. In extreme case, you have to even jalapeno, but like there's definitely some green savory thing here, and that's coming from. I mean, we talked about the first week. These are kind of like all these Bordeaux varieties are essentially very incestuous varieties. They all kind of come from Cabernet Franc being the kind of a grandpa uh, breed or the species for all of them. So they all, both Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, they all have this bit of like a high piercing kind of green character. And this having high content of Cabernet Franc also blended in. There's definitely some green character here, which is very, very typical of Bordeaux. Like that green character is very typical of Bordeaux. So definitely some herbaceous kind of green kind of a thing here. Even like
I decanted mine like 45 minutes before the call. I don't know if that made
yeah, maybe. And then any spices?
No.
Yeah, not much spices here. Any rockiness?
Nope.
Yeah, not a whole lot on the nose at least. Maybe on the palate it will come out different. Maybe like some of the chalky silex character will come out, but like on the nose, I don't. Maybe some like a little dusty kind of a thing, but not a whole lot of like a crushed rocks or anything like that. All right, secondary thing.
It has like some of that leathery, musty library thing going on.
Yeah.
I don't know where that lands. But
yeah, there's some of that like a gamey, like a leathery, like that's good called. There's some like non-fruit, almost like a savory kind of a thing. For me right now, that honestly is this. A lot of this piercing character gets a lot of bottle aging, is going to turn more and more into exactly that, what you were talking about. This leather, game, savory, meaty, all this stuff. That really, I see a lot more that coming out from the herbaceous character. It's still, to me, right now, it's more of the like a fresh green. But yeah, that leathery kind of a savory kind of a thing. There's definitely that. Like, and that on the back of that like plummy black currant, all that kind of generous fruit that's happening here, I think is a really good balance here, like having the savory and the fruit. So, anything else?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Like I said,
To me,
I'm kind of struggling to get much off of it. Maybe
yeah, you
I
just say that.
shouldn't can't it for that long, but
Yeah, to me, this is a pretty primary fruit aroma driven wine. It's a young, youthful, kind of fresh Bordeaux, which is such a, some people may say doesn't taste like Bordeaux. This is not what the Bordeaux is, but this is closer to Joe's point earlier, closer to what the Bordeaux probably used to be like back in 1600s than what it is now. Like the wines back then were probably much fresher, did not have this crazy high alcohol and ripeness and all of that. And that's what and then there's no like new oak on this thing. And that's what I like about this wine. There's a freshness, there's a brightness, there's a levity to this thing. You get all this really fresh primary fruit coming through, which is really nice. But yeah, excellent. You get to pick the next person for the palette.
I'll just go right below me about Cecilia.
All right, Cecilia.
Sure. I'm at a dangerous part of my knitting, so hopefully I don't screw that up. I have a very exciting life. So on palette, so this is dry.
Wanted bone dry. And nothing going on here. All right, acidity.
I feel like it's medium,
Mhm.
but I also have like acidity, like datum. So I don't know.
Yeah,
But
I'll
it
call
feels
this
like
medium.
medium to me. It's not, doesn't feel super acidic.
Yeah, no, I'll call this about medium as well.
Okay.
and in general, like Bordeaux is not crazy super high
Yeah.
acid. So yeah, medium acid. Tannin.
Tannin's like medium.
Yeah, there's some tannin here, right? And again, the Bordeaux, you're gonna find some tannin, but especially for a young youthful Bordeaux, for it to be approachable, like this is really nice. Like this tannin, I find it to be really velvety and like fine, rather than
Yeah.
like sometimes rustic and chewy. And it's not like
I
that.
get
This is
I
quite-
get turned off by that. The
Yeah.
rustic. Yeah. I like
But-
this though. It's nice.
Yeah.
It's a nice grippiness. Yeah.
Exactly. It just gives you a texture of the wine, gives you some mouthfeel. But yeah, so definitely I'll call this a medium tannin as well, but like fine, velvety kind of a tannin, not rustic chewy tannin. I'll call.
I doesn't feel super hot to me. I think it's medium.
Yeah.
Feels medium to me.
Tools like 13, 12.5, somewhere probably. Yep, 12.5. Yep.
12.5. Yeah.
Medium. Body.
Feel like it's 2%.
Yep. I'll call this medium as well. Yep.
Yeah.
So, mousse, we don't have to
No-
talk about that.
no
Flavor
mousse.
intensity?
I feel like it's medium plus.
Mhm.
Like it's staying. And I guess that's the finish, but
Yeah.
I would say they're both medium plus for me.
Yeah, I call this a medium plus as well. I mean, the flavors here is not shy. It definitely lets you know. High end of medium, lower end of medium plus, but I'm leaning more towards a medium plus. At this juncture in my class, it's quite expressive.
Yeah.
And what do you get? Do you kind of confirm everything that Joe called up? Is there anything
Yes,
else that you get?
Some red fruit, a lot of black fruit.
Yeah.
On the nose, I had like, it was like fennel-y to me,
Mm,
but I don't really taste that.
okay.
I'm not. And also it smelled minty to me. I don't know if there was something off, but there's a little
not
bit
at
of that, but it's not, it's much more on the nose to me than on the palate.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of a minty, mentholy, bell peppery, greenish, just kind of a herbaceous herbal thing. I mean, it's a very typical thing for Bordeaux.
Yeah.
Again, because the Cabernet Franc and Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot, which are children of Cabernet Franc, all of them have high piercing notes. So
Mhm.
this green, savory, herbaceous kind of thing is a very, very common thing. But I will say also though, like on the palate, like on the nose, I got it more as this kind of, again, herbaceous herbal thing, but like on the palate, just kind of like letting
It's
it
very
really
fruity.
define it.
Yeah.
That, to me, it's very pretty, kind of like even floral. Like I get maybe little like the rose petals or something like that. But yeah, there's a prettiness. It's not just like a just raw ripped out grass or things like that. So
Yeah.
any spice, any minerality, anything like that?
I don't think so. Sometimes I confuse tannin with some minerality too, but
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about like that tension, the limestone tension, that can also be confused with the tannin as well. But there's definitely some energy tension on this thing. Not a whole lot. Like, it's not like something that was grown on like a just bedrock of limestone. But I get a little bit of limestone quality on this thing. But not a lot. Like, it's not enough to really talk about it, but if I had to take a guess, I would say there's probably some limestone in this thing for sure. The spice thing, however, this is where I'm getting, maybe this is where it's tying into your fennel call too, but there's something here that I'm not exactly sure how to articulate. I don't want to call it black or white pepper. Maybe it's like a little bit of this like nutmeg
Clove?
thing, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, there's
But it's
something
not like baking spice flavor.
No.
It's yeah.
Yeah, I struggle. I hesitate to call it nutmeg, but like there's something like savory, spicy here that I'm getting more on the palate than I did on the nose.
A little peppery, but not really pepper.
Yeah,
I feel like, yeah.
maybe a little pepper, but yeah, there's something a little spicy. Anything else?
Nothing else for me, no.
Yeah. Cool. And how long is the finish?
Medium plus for me. I mean, it's still sitting here. Yeah. Or
Agreed.
long. I don't know. I don't know if
Yeah.
I've ever had a long finish wine, but
Yeah, we've had a few long finish.
Yeah.
That's Sauterne, I called it long finish.
oh
Um,
yeah. Well, yeah, it was delicious.
Yeah, but I'll call this medium plus as well. I mean, it's got some length. All that kind of like all that fruit, all that plumminess, cherries, all that hits you up front, but all that kind of like savory component of the wine kind of sticks through and it kind of lasts. So I'm gonna call this medium plus as well. Let's take it home.
Delicious.
How good it is, and
We
then
had it with burgers tonight, and it was great with burgers.
this is like a perfect.
That's a burger. It's a burger
Yeah.
wine. Yeah.
By the way, those of you who watched Sideways, the movie, I don't know if you guys get the joke on all this thing, but the Miles, the Paul Giamatti's character, he talks shit on Merlot the entire movie, right? Like there's a whole sideways effect that we've talked about where it plummeted the Merlot sales in this country because that movie did so well, and he talked so much shit on Merlot that Merlot sales in this country plummeted and never rebounded back because of that. But the irony or the joke of it all is that bottle that he saves till the very end. I forget the vintage, but it's a Cheval Blanc bottle that he saves. And then he pours it into a fucking styrofoam cup and then eats it with his burger. And that's a Merlot dominant Bordeaux blend. It's a right bank Bordeaux. And that's the whole joke of that movie. So now you guys know what that means. And you guys can maybe rewatch that movie. But yeah, so this with the burger is like the perfect pair. This is a really good burger wine for sure. Anyways, quality though.
So it had medium plus finish, medium plus flavor intensity. What's the other part of that?
Complexity.
Complexity. I guess it wasn't super complex, but
Yeah.
So probably a very good.
Yeah, so I'll probably call that medium myself, complexity wise.
Yeah.
And then this one is definitely balanced. So all across, just closer, you got 2 medium pluses and a medium, closer to medium plus than to medium. So I'll call this very good as well. Would you age this?
Well, because it has good amount of tannins, probably.
It's
Yeah.
got tannin, it's got
Yeah.
medium tannin.
And it's a
medium
Bordeaux.
acid. Bordeaux, it's got the concentration, got some complexity, not a whole lot. And it's Bordeaux. Yeah, given Bordeaux, it could age. It's not one of those Bordeaux that is like Bordeaux that are meant to be aged for 50 plus years. It's gonna be like you want a lesson in tannin, like you should taste some of the young Bordeaux wines. If you ever get a chance to taste young Bordeaux wines of the like left bank, which should be it like rip your gum out with the amount of tannin it has. Obviously, this doesn't have that much of that. It also doesn't have that level of concentration or complexity. So it's not meant to be aged for that long. But as Cecilia mentioned, it's got all the components, right? It's got the acid, it's got the tannin, it's got the concentration, some complexity. So I'll say, I think this can easily age for the next 5 to 8, maybe even going up to 10. I think it would be nicely all that kind of intense primary fruit that we talked about And as Joe was alluding to, all that is going to turn into kind of like a leathery, kind of a tobacco-y, cedar, all that kind of a thing. And that's typically what happens with a Bordeaux, aged Bordeaux. So yeah, and I think this will probably take place within, I don't know, next 8 years, 5 to 8 years. So come back in 5. You know, if I were to get this wine, I'll get maybe like 6 of them. Come back and check one in 5, check another in like 8. And then at that point, if shit is like falling off and it's going true tertiary, then drink it all. If not, then come back at 10, and then you have 3 bottles left to drink. It's kind of the way I would approach this. But yeah.
It's also really delicious right now.
And it's really delicious right now, especially with burgers. Excellent, excellent. Great job, everyone. Any questions? Okay. Did everybody like this wine? Just curious. Yeah? Joe, what did you think? Why? Tell me more.
I just didn't get much off it. It seemed kind of boring. I don't know if I got a weird bottom or if you decanted it too early, but I get that it's very kind of elegant, well balanced, but it just didn't.
Yeah,
Oh.
I mean,
I also cut like a raw jalapeno into my salad like an hour ago.
okay. All right. All right. Yeah. Maybe you just burned off your palate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those of you who are not familiar with the Bordeaux, this is not. It has all the typicity of the Bordeaux, like I mentioned, all that kind of, especially the ripe back, all that plumminess, the plush fruit, velvety tannin, some of that kind of green notes and all of that. That's what you would expect. The thing here is what at least stood out to me about this particular bottling is that it usually lacks this level of elegance. Like there's something really elegant and like harmonious about this wine. Is this something that I personally would pound every day? No, like I just don't. Bordeaux is just not my preferred style of wine. But if Bordeaux is your thing, if California wine is your thing, like to me, this is an excellent, excellent example of that. Like this is where I say this wine is incredibly well made. There's incredible level of finesse and elegance to it, liveliness to it that I miss from Bordeaux, that I want in my Bordeaux. And that's the whole reason why I don't drink much Bordeaux, because to me, oftentimes a lot of Bordeaux just seems very dead. It's not like a very lively wine to me, because it's so heavily handled. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there, but just wanted to show off, give you what, in my opinion, the best example of what a Bordeaux can be at a young level and its youthful stage. And to me, this wine hits all of that. And here's the best part of all of it is its price. So how much do you think this wine is on a retail shelf? And how much would you be happy paying for this on a retail shelf? I mean, this is a second label of one of the most esteemed OG producers of Bordeaux. Not the best known appellation, obviously, and it's Vin de France, for example, for sure, but nonetheless made by people who've been making wine for 600 plus years. So, and we called it what, 8 to 10 year ageability possible, 5 to 10 essentially. So what do you think? How much do you think this will cost on a retail shop? And how much would you get? $12. All right, Joe. Solid, solid. So you would drink this next to, I don't know, fucking Ravenswood or Kendall Jackson?
I got a case of this with my Campo Viejo.
Yeah, there you go. All right, 30, 30, 35, 32, 25, 28, 28, 32, 28, 32. Yeah, you guys are pretty good. But this wine on a retail shelf would be $28. So to me, the fact that something that we call 5 to 10 year ageability that drinks beautifully now and you all like, and it has some name value behind it as well, even though it's their second label at $28 is an incredible value. So yeah, anyways, there it is. There it is, folks. Your perhaps bottle of Merlot that you didn't know that you were drinking Merlot, like Sideway guy. Any questions? Just out of curiosity, how often do you guys drink Bordeaux? Any of you, all of you? Any of you drink Bordeaux like regularly?
Sarah does.
Yeah. What do you think about this wine compared to other Bordeaux that you normally drink?
I am still learning things.
Okay.
Sorry,
me
there's a
too.
dog. I am still learning things. I think I like it. I like it just as much as the other ones, if not more, that have been recommended for me. I think the other things that have been recommended for me, and I think they had a bit more body to them, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They're just a little different, but I like everything that
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this.
Yeah. Do you find
Got
this
the
to
price
be
right, Un. So that's
What's
how
that?
you know she got the price right. She was one
Nice?
of the guessed the 28. So
Nice. Do you think this wine is lighter?
Yes.
Lighter in color, lighter in body, perhaps lighter in tannin as well than other Bordeaux that you normally drink?
I think, and Alice and I were just talking about this over the hour. It's become significantly lighter. I'd say lighter in body. I
Yeah.
missed what you said that last item. You said lighter in body and then you said something after that and I couldn't hear you.
Lighter in color, lighter in tannin, just basically all the kind of structural component, even possibly alcohol level, all around. Like it just feel lighter and just
Yeah.
brighter.
I'd say so. At
Yeah.
least now, at least over time as this is
Yeah.
opened up more. Yeah.
And that's one of the things, that's why I like this wine, honestly. And that's one of the reasons I said, if they made Bordeaux more like this, I'd probably drink more Bordeaux. And one of the things I don't like Bordeaux about is that it just gets too heavy. I mean, I'm not a huge heavy wine fan to begin with, but at a young, youthful level for wine to be that heavy, like to me, I don't know, it just kind of punches me in my mouth. And then I like the kind of the elegance and the finesse of this thing. But probably, like I said, for modern Bordeaux fans, this probably may seem too thin and light. So I can understand that. But this is what Bordeaux used to be. What you think is Bordeaux is now, that's like the new style. This is like the OG style of Bordeaux.
Well, fake news.
Yeah.
Well, for me, this Saint Emilion was my epiphany wine, right?
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing, and I have one still. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's actually kind of interesting to taste such an early,
Yeah.
a young version, and so I guess that actually, to the question that you were just asking, Sarah, about like, is it lighter, right? If this ages over the 8 years, right? This is a dumb question. I should know the answer. Does the alcohol get more intense? It does, or no?
No, alcohol will be fine. It just stay around the same. Some of it will evaporate off, but it's a negligible difference. It's not like it's gonna go from 12 and a half to like, yeah, especially in 10 years time. Maybe this was aged for like 100 years, maybe it will drop off with 1 or 2 percentage points. But yeah, that's negligible. But where you're gonna see probably the most amount of difference is that colors are gonna change. It's gonna get browner, more amber, for sure. And just the flavors are gonna change. Like you're gonna get way less of this fresh primary fruit. You're gonna get a lot more of probably what you think of as that oil central
The tobacco-y,
tobacco,
all that,
leather.
yeah, all that, yeah.
And
And then if it, so you were saying like you could taste them are low in this one, and I loved the LR C
yeah,
idea. That's a great one. But but for so if it were from the right bank, would we expect it to be more alcohol? Like, would we expect more alcohol content, like a higher? Okay, no, not necessarily.
yeah, not necessarily. That yeah.
So that's not a way, right? For here, he does tell us that it's mostly Merlot, doesn't he? Does
Yeah,
he tell us it's mostly Merlot?
this bottle doesn't say anything about it. Yeah.
It doesn't,
that's-
right?
No, it doesn't. Any of the Bordeaux bottles, if you ever pick it up, unless you knew that it was right bank or left bank, there's no way you would know that. Like none of the, I've never seen a Bordeaux bottle that has a variety names on the label. It's just not what they do. So yeah, you just have to know that Pomerol or Saint-Emilion is in the right bank. You have to know Pauillac is on the left bank. You just have to know these things. And then that way you know what the makeup is. But yeah. But also just as a trend, like this is 12.5%, which is what used to be the norm of Bordeaux. But these days, especially Bordeaux Superior, just in the interest of like kind of matching the international popular style of the wine, the alcohol percentage is also creeping up. And a lot of that is being done through chaptalization, which is they're adding sugar into the must of the wine just to jack up the alcohol percentage. Like you can find Bordeaux at a 14.5% these days. Like it's fucking wild. Like you should never see Bordeaux above 13.5. Like if you ever see Bordeaux 14 plus, there's something like some sort of manipulation happened there. Like naturally, it just the grapes in that region just don't get that right. It just doesn't happen. So, but you see that like this is the area like everything that we eschew as a natural wine club is the norm of the practice, norm of the trade in this region. Like all the chemical farming, all the manipulation that happens, like everything happens here. So it's part of the reason I was always so like afraid to go here. It's like I don't know if I want to get a Bordeaux about stuff, But you find people like this who still stick to the old ways, doing it the right way still. So there it is. Any other questions? Oh, wait. I see a rookie on the call. Kyungma, are you here on the call?
I am here. Sorry,
Ah,
I'm in bed. That's why I have
gotcha.
my camera off. Hello, hello. Hi, everyone.
Will you just introduce yourself? Tell us your name, where you're joining us from, and how you found out about 6 Foot Wine Club?
Yeah, hi, everyone. Ken Law. I am living in DC. I'm from South Korea. Been here, I guess now 17 years. I learned about 6 Feet Wine just through online, like random Google search. I was like, I love wine. I always wanted to learn more about it. And I was part of a wine group that didn't do much. I was like, oh, I want something a little bit more involved. And yeah, here I was like, oh, I like the intro page. Very simple.
Love it. My intro page that looks like a fucking 13-year-old like put it together, but love it that worked.
Hey, it was effective.
Yeah. I've once gotten this review. They said, what it lacks in technology, it makes up for it in personality, is the review I once got about my webpage. Well, I know you are in bed, you said, but it is our tradition here that we usually put the rookie on the hot seat
Okay.
Would you,
Okay,
would you,
let me turn off my hi. Yeah, sorry. Also, I haven't gotten a chance to drink the wine. I'm sorry. Another reason
it's
why.
all right. It's okay. Uh, you don't need the wine to be on the hot seat, but yeah. So this is a silly kind of a thing that we do here, which is a way for us to kind of get to know each other a little bit better. So idea is that we ask you questions. You don't have to answer any of them or all of them. You know, consent is very important here at 6 Foot Wine Club.
Hey,
Uh,
hon, I think you're still recording. Just
excellent. Also,